This episode of Without Fail is brought to you by Cole Haan. Cole Haan is the footwear brand that celebrates extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. But doing something extraordinary, that's difficult. I recently talked about this, the challenge to keep pushing yourself to make great work, with some other hosts at Gimlet.
You got to keep trying, keep iterating. I've never worked on a project where, like, right out of the gate, it was perfecto. I think part of it is about stamina.
Stay tuned after the credits to hear more of my conversation with Flora Lichtman, host of Every Little Thing, and Brittany Luce, co-host of The Nod, two extraordinary people. Or go to extraordinariesonthemic.com. That's extraordinariesonthemic.com. Produced in partnership with Cole Haan. From Gimlet Media, I'm Alex Blumberg, and this is Without Fail, the show where I talk with entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, visionaries of all kinds about their successes and their failures and what they've learned from both.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
My guest today is someone I'm so excited to talk to, Ira Glass, the host of the radio show and podcast, This American Life.
So now you need the session to be a 24-bit.
Yeah.
44?
Yes, please. We were talking to him at our studios in Brooklyn, and he was recording himself in his own studio in Manhattan.
Where will I put this location?
This is the only interview I've ever done so far where the guest is setting their own Pro Tools bit rate.
Yeah, that's how I roll, baby. Hold on. Okay. Gimlet, how's that? We're not recording this. Okay, hold on to...
You're not recording this?
Well, because I'm setting up the session.
Oh, damn it.
I hope you're recording it. Ira with Alex.
Ira, always be recording. It's a lesson you told me.
Well, I can't be recording until I create the session. Okay, wait, hold on.
Fortunately, we got you on the phone.
Record 24-bit rates. Okay,
boom. Okay, I'm recording.
Great. That's going to be magic. Ira Glass is my old boss. I worked for him on and off for almost 20 years, from 1997 to 2014. And there is no doubt that you are hearing my voice right now because of Ira. He taught me practically everything I know about audio. From writing the script that I'm reading to you right now, to choosing tape, like the piece of tape that I played to open the show, to just how to talk on the radio, how to use my voice in the way that I'm doing right now. The company bringing you this podcast, which I host, and many others which I do not, I co-founded Gimlet in large part to spread all that I had learned from Ira. Most of you probably know the show Ira founded and hosts, This American Life. It's one of the most influential and longest-running shows on public radio, one of the biggest podcasts in existence. I joined the show in 1997 as an administrative assistant. I was in my early 30s and had spent the previous decade bouncing from career to career, looking for something I felt passionate about. I landed at This American Life by a random fluke and fell immediately in love. I fell in love with audio and fell in love with the kind of storytelling that This American Life was doing. And when I co-founded Gimlet, most of what I knew about being a boss, I'd also learned, consciously or unconsciously, from Ira. Ira was a constant presence. And sitting down to prep for this interview, in the way that Ira taught me, I realized I'd never actually told him any of this, or talked to him about our parallel experiences starting and running organizations. In fact, despite all the time we'd spent together, there was a lot about him I didn't know. And just one small warning before we continue. The F word appears a couple of times during the course of this interview, but never in an angry way. You ready to go?
Okay. Ready.
Are you nervous?
No.
I wasn't
nervous
until
you asked me if I was nervous. Wait, why did we have to be nervous? We've known each other for like 20 years.
I know, but I don't know. You've interviewed a lot of people, and now I'm interviewing you.
You have also interviewed a lot of people.
That's true.
No, if I were interviewing you, I would be very nervous, actually. If I were interviewing you, I would be nervous.
Would you? How come?
Yeah. I get nervous before a lot of interviews.
Still?
Yeah. Well, nervous means you want to win. Like nervous means you're reaching high.
Uh-huh.
Like so. No, I get nervous, but also I'm a little scared that other people will be offended at me. I'll just mess it up.
Right. So okay. One of the things that I'm excited about is like I've known you now for 2 decades. You were at my wedding. I was at your wedding. You taught me pretty much everything I know about radio. But there's a bunch of these questions I was looking over this prep, and like a lot of these questions I don't know the answers to. I've never actually asked you about them, which is exciting.
Wow.
So, but starting at the very beginning, why did you get into radio in the very first place? I've heard a lot of other stories, but I don't actually know how you first got in.
I mean, it really was like a fluke. Like I had no special interest in radio at all. And when I was in high school in Baltimore, on WFBR, an AM station, there was kind of like a proto shock jock named Johnny Walker, who did this show in the morning that a lot of Baltimore listened to, and teenage boys in the suburbs definitely listened to. And he was kind of crude. He was very funny. He would have like a kind of a laugh track and music track going the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
And the summer before my senior year of high school, I wrote to him because I was such a fan, and I sent him a couple of pages of jokes to do, because he'd do like the Johnny Walker Little News of the morning, and he would do bits throughout the show, kind of like the bits that like Johnny Carson would do, like in between guests and stuff. And so I sent him a set of jokes, and then he called me on the phone, which was the most incredible thing that ever happened to me. Like that a person from the radio called me on the phone, and it was just like, it was crazy. It was mind-bending. And he was a super sweet guy. And he said that he liked the jokes. And he says, why don't you come over and let's meet. And he said, I'll send my man for you. And then he had a limo. And I had never been in a limo.
That's so classy.
It's so, like, and honestly, it was like another 20 years before I was ever in a limo. Like, I thought, like, radio's amazing. And so he sent a limo. And then I only realized, like, much later, the reason why he had a driver in a limo is because of so many DUIs. He had lost his driver's license. I mean, his name on the air was Johnny Walker. Anyway,
right.
So
it's sort of a giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah. His real name is Jim Embry, and he was a really wonderful man. And every day during the summer before my senior year of high school, I would drive down at like 6 a.m. to WFBR in the Plymouth Satellite that had been my grandma Frida's, but then became my sister's and mine. And dropped off some jokes and would watch him do his show for a little while, which was so glamorous. And sometimes like he'd order in like, McDonald's hash browns for us or something. And then some of the jokes he would use, some he wouldn't. It was crazy when he would use them. I remember that my dad once quoted me a joke that one of his clients told him that he heard on Johnny Walker that I had written. I was like, oh, wow, I'm getting somewhere. It was amazing. And then when I went off to college at the end of that year, after my senior year, I went off to Northwestern, and he said, do you want to make a demo tape to get on their radio station? He says, I will help you. And I was so sure that I would never be on the air, and was so embarrassed at the thought of sitting down in front of him, in front of a microphone. I turned him down. Like, I thanked him so much. He's like, no, seriously, I will help you do this. And I was like, no, really, I don't think that's how that's not where I'm going. So no, I didn't picture myself as being on the air. And then when I got to Northwestern, they had a beat up old radio station in the basement of one of the halls. And I got a shift kind of in one of those middle of the night, 2 or 3 hours, one night a week. And then I made promos for the radio station. And the promos were all very corny. They're all imitation. This is what a radio nerd I am. They were all imitations of Dick Orkin and Burt Burtis. Dick Orkin did Chicken Man.
Oh, Chicken Man was that weird sort of like long running cult radio classic. There was sort of like this ironic take on the superhero genre where the main character played a superhero named Chicken Man.
Yeah. But and I could say so much about Chicken Man. Like Chicken Man had this kind of deadpan humor, and as you'll hear. So let's play a clip of Chicken Man here.
Commissioner.
Yes, I am.
It's the mayor calling.
How you doing, King?
This is Miss Hellfinger, your secretary.
Well, make up your mind.
The king is on the phone. He'd like your report on crime and or evil.
No, tell the king crime is up, evil is down.
Is that possible?
How about crime is down, evil is up?
That's going to be your report? That's how it's going?
Yes, it's going good.
Crime is going good?
Probably going to be one of our best years.
And the thing I would have you notice about this is just like the incredible deadpan. Like he just invented this deadpan style. It's so good. Like there's a part in this particular one, the guy playing the man on the street where he walks up and he says like, "Are you a hardened criminal?" The criminal delivers his line in the most perfect possible way you could possibly deliver it. It's so understated.
Pardon me, sir.
Yeah?
Are you by chance a vicious criminal?
Uh-huh.
Fine. Would you take a look at this costume I'm wearing?
Yeah.
Do you feel anything strange? Anything at all?
Yeah.
And then, so that's Chicken Man, done by like a true radio genius.
Okay.
And then this is me knocking off what I thought was knocking off that sound. This is a promo that I did. This might be the actual very first 30 seconds of anything that I ever made, this promo. It really might be. And what it is, it's a promo for WNUR. And the thing that
WNUR
I
is
tell
the
you
Northwestern
is that
radio station that I used to listen to when I was in
Northwestern
Chicago.
radio
Yeah.
station. And I'm in the promo. I'm playing the kid.
Okay.
Daddy, I'm bored.
Eat your truffles, child.
I don't mean to intrude on your meal, sir, but I have a question.
You want me to entertain your
If you
question?
don't entertain my question, sir, it'll have to look for entertainment on street corners.
I want to go to street corners, Daddy.
Quiet, child. Dinner, sir?
No, thank you, sir. What's your radio station, sir?
For music, I go to the Chicago Symphony. Caviar, perhaps?
That's Schulte.
That's not so bad if you use good crackers.
Daddy, I'm going crackers.
If you love classical music, why don't you listen to WNUR? It's rare radio programming.
Well, that's a shame. If it were well done, we'd be able to get away with white wine.
And it's intelligent programming, so the newcomer can listen along with the classical sophisticate.
Daddy, can we listen together?
Classical music on WNUR can save your family. Sunday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. on 89 FM.
No more rock for me.
An occasional perch would be nice, though.
Oh.
What's notable about my entire early radio career is that none of it involves journalism. I just realized this just recently, is that like I didn't know anything about reporting, journalism. I knew nothing. And
You were just like it sounds like you were on the career of like being like a stand-up or like being like sort of working at the Howard Stern show or something like you were all about entertainment.
I was about entertainment. I just wanted to make stuff that was like funny and good and like, I don't know, but I didn't have that much talent.
So that was what you were doing. How did you fall into
End up at
journalism?
NPR.
Yeah.
That's, again, it was just like really, what happened was that after my freshman year at Northwestern, I had this like little packet of promos, pretty corny ones, that then I was just looking for some job, went back to Baltimore for the summer. Somebody at one of the rock stations in Baltimore knew someone at NPR.
Okay.
And said, why don't you call this guy? You know, like he's at this new outfit called NPR. And it really was new. This is like 1978. This is how old I am. NPR had only been in the air for like 6 years.
Oh, wow.
I had never heard of NPR.
Right.
Or heard them on the air, but nobody had.
Right.
Like it was so new.
And what did you do? Did you just show up at the like?
I was in the promos department, and there was one producer on staff at NPR whose job, incredibly, was to invent new ways to do radio.
Oh.
And his name was Keith Talbot. And I did a promo for a show that Keith did called New York City: The Grand Tour. And the reason why I have my job now is because I just imitated the sound. Each of his shows would have its own aesthetic, its own sound aesthetic, its own sound design, and I basically just imitated the sound of the show in the promo. And he's like, well, nobody on staff at NPR who's doing promos had the time to like actually listen to all of his raw tape and think about what he was making and actually imitate it.
Right.
Right. Like I could only do that because I was the intern. Like I had all the time in the world. And I made a really beautiful promo that totally sounded exactly like the show and felt just like the show. And he totally noticed. And he's like, who are you? And he hired me as his production assistant. And it was an actual paid job the following summer. I feel like half of everything I know about radio I learned from Keith, and the other half I learned from other people or figured out on my own. Mm-hmm. But like so much of it was Keith. Without Keith, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And like absolutely not. I wouldn't be in radio. It was a really lucky break getting to work for him. And he was like a real, like just such an interesting thinker. I mean, it's funny that after he left the public radio, the thing he created next was the new Mouseketeers for Disney, like Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, like worked on the show that he created. That's Keith
idea.
Talbot.
So the same person who launched you launched Justin Timberlake and Christina Aguilera.
Absolutely, yeah.
Coming up after this word from our sponsors, how Ira launched This American Life, and also Rage as a management tool. By the way, how to write an intriguing forward promo, something that makes you want to stick around through the commercial break. I also learned that from Ira. Hey, here's another podcast you might like. It's called The TED Interview. In each episode, the head of TED, That's his official title, head of TED. Chris Anderson speaks with some of the most compelling TED speakers, like investment expert Mellody Hobson, who talks candidly about race and the tough choices she faced as a Starbucks board member during a massive PR crisis. Subscribe to the TED Interview wherever you listen to podcasts. Welcome back to Without Fail and my conversation with Ira Glass, creator and host of This American Life, and my former boss. So one of the things I learned working with Ira, perhaps his greatest trait, was his crazy internal motivation. The word visionary gets bandied about a lot, but Ira is one of the few people I'd actually call one. After working for Keith Talbot, Ira bounced around NPR. He became a producer for All Things Considered and then a reporter. But unlike almost anyone else who gets a career and starts rising through the ranks, Ira maintained this internal drive to do his own thing, to create this kind of sound, to do a kind of work that he and he alone wanted to do. And so in addition to his regular job of being a reporter on NPR, he'd assign himself little extra tasks, sort of like extra credit work. So, for example, every story he reported, he would have his own internal rule to have what's called a tape-to-tape transition, go from one voice in the story to another voice in the story without any narration in between, just because stylistically he liked it. Or he would have another rule where he had to have one moment in every story that he did that was there just because he alone loved it. It was just for him. And then he'd also do these projects on the side as well. So he had this show he'd do every Friday night on the local public radio station in Chicago called The Wild Room that he did with a partner, Gary Covino. And that's where he was experimenting with a lot of the things that would become This American Life. And during all this time, he applied for a grant from the MacArthur Foundation to start his own radio show, the show that became This American Life. It aired for the first time in November of 1995. Here's what that first episode sounded like.
Hey, Franklin?
I'm ready.
It's Ira Glass here.
Oh, you're the MC on the show, Ira.
I am the MC on the show, yes.
Great. Ira?
Ira, I-R-A.
Oh, great. Now, hold on one second, Ira. Don't go there.
Well, you know, one great thing about starting a new show is utter anonymity. Nobody really knows what to expect from you. This interviewee did not know us from Adam. Okay, well, what? About a minute. We're 1 minute 5 into the new show. Right now, it is stretching in front of us. A perfect future, yet to be fulfilled. An uncharted little world. Little baby coming into the world, no little scars on it or anything.
So how did it do in the beginning? Did a lot of people listen?
Well, our business goal was to get onto 60 stations in, I can't remember if it's 2 years or 3 years. And we did way better than that. Like we were on like 110 stations in 1 year. Basically with public radio shows, the way that the thing worked was that you had to talk each station individually into picking up your show. Public radio is radically decentralized in a great way. So there's no network boss to say like, everybody's going to run this show Fridays at 7:00. It's not like NBC. Uh-huh. It's like every station gets to choose for itself what it wants to run and when it wants to run it, which means that anybody can get on the air if you can just talk people into it. But you do have to like individually talk them into it. And so we had a couple things going for us. One is like we'd send out postcards to all the program directors. And basically if you would pick up our show, we would send you a Snickers bar. That was one of our things. And then the other thing we said is like, don't pick up the show because we are trying to reinvent radio. Do it because we will make you money. And that was our pitch to stations, is that we will raise you so much money during the pledge drive because we would do these little like 3-minute pledge drive modules. In the pledge modules, I would say, I'm Ira Glass. I'm host of this new show called This American Life. And then like we're on the station and like, and then I would go into some bit. I mean, we could play one of the bits if you want. I'm Ira Glass of This American Life. And ratings information indicates that 9 out of 10 of you, now hearing the sound of my voice, 9 out of 10 of you don't ever give money to this radio station, even though you listen all the time. It's a very, very good, you have a very good thing going. And I called the phone company. Out here, the phone company is called Ameritech, and tried to get the deal. Let me tell you why I'm calling.
Okay.
What I'd like to set up is something where I get 10 phone accounts, but 9 of them are free.
9 of them are free?
Yeah.
Free? What do you mean free? Ameritech doesn't charge you?
That's right.
No, we're going to charge you.
There's no way that we could do this so that
We can get 9 for free and we'll pay for 1.
Well, let me make sure I understand your question. You want to get 10 phone lines, and you want 9 of them free.
That's exactly right.
No. Not with Ameritech. We would have to build.
And WBUR in Boston, I remember would run one of these modules, and they would make $35,000 in 8 minutes in drive time.
Uh-huh.
And that was crazy. It was crazy money back then.
Right.
And even now. And we had testimonials from program directors saying get those pledge modules, you make money. And people would call us up for the pledge modules, and we would be like, you got to take the show.
How did you come up with that idea?
I came up with that idea out of business necessity because it was explained to me that you have to offer the show to stations for free initially, because everybody's giving them stuff for free to get them to play it. And the idea is you get them to play it for free, and then after a year or two, you start to charge them. And I was told, once you start to charge them, you're going to lose 15% of your station. I was like, we're not going to be the kind of show that can afford to lose 15% of our stations. So we have to make it so they don't want to drop us. And so the way we're going to make it so they don't drop us is that we're going to make them make so much money off us, they'll keep us on the air. Not realizing that this was the Achilles heel of the public radio system. If you can make them pledge modules where they make money, everybody will put you on.
It's like cigarettes in prison.
Yeah.
The whole system runs on pledge modules.
That would have been a good slogan. Yeah, exactly. Because most of the shows don't give them good pledge drive material. And so if you could do something that's new and that's funny and that makes the phones light up, that was how we got on the air. And I have to say, I am very much for that. And I feel like if you're making an art project or if you're making anything, I feel like the more idealistic you are, the more cunning you have to be about the business side of it. I have to say, I feel very proud of the business side of our show. I was very serious about it, and I wanted it to be right. I wanted to do it in the way that would absolutely maximize our chances. And the fact is, there's nothing more common than a really great idea or a really great art project that just never ends up working as a business, that never survives because it can't make the business side of it work. And I was like, we are not going to fail on business terms. We're going to win on business terms. We're going to do everything we can. And so the pledge spots turned out to be a hugely important thing for us. And I was not ashamed to say to stations, we will make you money. I was proud we could make money. And also the pledge drive was a really interesting, can I just say, as a radio producer, a super macho test of skill because you have everything going against you, right? Nobody wants to hear a word you're saying. They know you're asking for money. They don't want to give money. They don't want to listen to the pledge drive at all. And so you're up against everything, and then you want to get them to give you money. I feel like everything I know about radio, and I say this in sincerity, everything I know about how to make radio, I put into those pledge spots. And it was really fun to they made me excited to win. And I would do them live on the air on WBEZ before I would send them out to stations. So I knew they worked. And doing them live, you really do see the phones light up. It's the most immediate, most radio, you go into the studio and you record your thing, and you send it out, and then you check Twitter all weekend and nobody says anything about you, and you just feel like, fuck everybody. But this, you say something and phones light up and people hand you money.
The phones really do light up.
It's like being a waitress. It's like being you know what I mean? Just it's it's the most wonderful feeling.
The most wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
So when you started the show and it was up and running and you're getting on all these public radio stations. And so by the time I joined, I think I started in 1997. I remember joining the show and I remember two things sort of stand out. One, just how fucking exciting it was. I had these 2 part-time jobs, and the one part-time job I was in graduate school and I was working at this land use planning commission. And I would go to those meetings, and then I was the administrative assistant. I didn't have I didn't have an editorial role, but
at This American Life, you were the administrative assistant.
At This American Life, I was the administrative assistant, but you would let me sit in on the editorial meetings, and it was just so electric and exciting to just be part of those conversations, and it was just there was just this energy. And then there was also the other thing, which was nobody ever stopped working. The hours were insane. And what was your feeling about that at the time?
I mean, I just accepted that that's the way it was. I mean, I remember one night, like a year or two in, lying in bed, thinking, wait, I signed up for this for how long? Like, wait, this is just like indefinite? Like, this is the rest of my life?
What was your daily schedule like at that point?
The way I remember it, like, is that pretty much any moment that I was awake, I was working. Because if you think about it, it was four of us, turning out the show, and doing a job that now like a dozen of us do,
right?
And a dozen of us who are way more experienced at it too.
Yeah.
And so how did I see it? Like I really just accepted this is what it would take. I was excited and I wanted to make this thing that was kind of in my head, and it wasn't clear it could be made. That's part of what made it kind of interesting. Like it wasn't clear that you could do this, to make a show like this each week.
Yeah.
And then it just seemed like we were just really understaffed, and in retrospect, like really like not that well managed. Like I didn't really learn how to be a boss until so long after that. Like and I remember I mean, it's funny, like it only occurred to me years later how weird it was. Like it really only occurred to me like so long after that other people's lives were so different.
Julie Snyder, one of the show's very first producers, has a story about coming to interview at This American Life and showing up at like 4, and then you were like, I'm in the middle of an edit, but like just sit here and I'll be with you in a moment, and then I think she was there until like 10 at night, and then you were like out of the edit. And like,
wow,
and it was just,
I'm so sorry.
No, but it's not. And I remember the same thing. And it didn't occur to me to necessarily question it at the time because I was so hungry for some meaningful work in my life. One of the things I remember in the early days is just like how I was so excited to be learning. Basically, I was just going to the Ira Glass School of Radio my whole first year as a producer. And so I would go out and we would talk about like, okay, you're going to go get this tape. And I would go out and I would mess it up and I would like not get the right things. And I would like talk all over the tape and I wouldn't have the moments and I wouldn't know which moments to pull. So you'd dive into the tape with me and we'd pull the right moments. And then I'd write a script and it was way too long and wordy. And then you'd come in and we'd rewrite the script together. And then by the end, like I was like pretty much every word had been written by you without necessarily me even knowing it or certainly not caring, but you had to, it was just like you had to do that for everyone.
Yes. Yeah. For a few years.
What was that like for you?
I mean, sometimes I remember moments for sure where it was frustrating because I felt like, oh, wait a second, you don't have this part yet? I really thought you had this part. I definitely remember moments of real anger. And I remember having to like just not get mad at people for not knowing something they don't know. I definitely remember that.
It's so funny because I remember telling myself, like I remember I would be in an edit with you and, because you're just working all the time and really, really trying and like doing all these things. And there's like so many things that go into making it good. So you do the 99 things and then there'd be one thing that you didn't get. Like, and you'd always ask, did you ask him this? And then I'd be like, no, I didn't ask him that. And it was of course the perfect follow-up question. And then you would just sort of go silent and you wouldn't say anything. And I remember telling myself, oh, he's not mad. It's just like his face is blank. He seems really mad, but I'm sure he's not mad. Like, why would he be mad at me? And then years later I'd go on and I was like sort of like running Planet Money and I was doing the same thing. I was like training people who didn't know what they were doing. And I would ask the same question and they would be like, no, I didn't get that question. And I would do the same thing and I would be like, and I would just be so filled with rage. I was like, how could you not ask that stupid follow-up question? It's so fucking obvious. Why didn't you ask that question? And I would just have to make my face be completely blank. And then they were always wearing the same thing. And then I remember thinking like, oh, he was mad. He was enraged because I'm enraged.
No, I was mad, and I'm sure I got mad too, and I'm sorry. Like, it's like one of those things where you're mad, but you know you have no right to be mad. It's
No,
like
I
being
know.
mad at a baby. You know, like you're mad at a baby for crying.
As somebody who's had 2 babies, you get mad at babies.
Yeah.
Coming up after the break, what I've learned from my mentor and what I need to unlearn. This episode of Without Fail is brought to you by Pick Me Up, a branded podcast from Gimlet Creative and Lyft. Each episode of Pick Me Up follows a Lyft driver who is on the way to something big, like a library assistant who's working on publishing his first children's book, or an Army veteran who's launching her singing career with some advice from her childhood hero. Pick Me Up is out now. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to my conversation with Ira Glass, host and creator of This American Life, and my former boss. It's hard to fully represent the impact This American Life has had on podcasting. It's helped define what a podcast is. So many of the most popular podcasts out there can trace their lineage directly back to This American Life. Serial, one of the biggest podcasts in existence, was created by 2 of my former colleagues at This American Life, Julie Snyder and Sarah Koenig. S-Town, another huge podcast, was created by another producer, Brian Reed. And the list goes on and on. Invisibilia, Planet Money, all created by alums of This American Life. And then there are the shows that weren't started by This American Life alums, but are certainly influenced by This American Life. In the Dark, 99% Invisible, Slow Burn. It's hard to imagine those shows emerging if This American Life hadn't forged the way. But for Ira and his day-to-day life, not much has changed.
You know, maybe I shouldn't say this, but like I'm in a phase right now where I am still working all the time. Like I was here in the office till like 10:30 last night and 10:30 the night before, which was Sunday. I worked all day Sunday because of just like, I don't know, just worry about this week's show and next week's show. And I don't know, and there's so many weeks now we're still, and we just did like a run of shows where just like, for some reason, the stories just were not in the most ideal shape by the time they got to me, even though like other people were editing them before me, but just because things happened late. And I have had phases where like I go home at night at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock and have weekends off. But like for whatever reason, like the last few months have not been that.
Yeah. And you're back in sort of the early days kind of feeling of things.
Yeah. Like I have a lot of anxiety about like, wait, how are we going to make this good? Like, what are we going to do? Like, I don't know. And it's funny, like you're asking about the feeling of what it was like in like 1997. Like in a certain way, it doesn't feel that different. It's still that panic of like, what are we going to do that's going to be special? And how are we going to make it special? And is this good enough? And, just it's different in so many ways. But certain things, the basic feeling of it isn't so different.
Right. And I mean that like, so you're still like sort of in the weeds. So Jonathan Goldstein, former This American Life employee, then went on to do Wiretap and now does Heavyweight at a Gimlet podcast. And
great show.
Thank you. And This American Life aired a segment of Heavyweight, which was awesome for us. Thank you. And when things go on This American Life, they get tweaked and they get rewritten, and parts get rewritten to sort of like serve the format of the show and the feel of the show. And then he brought back a packet of mix notes, just because he was like so amazed and impressed. And for those who don't know, mix notes are the notes given by an audio producer or an editor about the audio mix itself, not really about the structure of the story, but how the piece sounds. Might be something's too loud in one spot, or maybe the music isn't right and you need the engineer to change it. So you give them these mix notes and it's all the stuff that they need to change. And so Ira, you gave the mix notes for Jonathan's story that ran on This American Life. And these mix notes are like, I'm holding it and it's like 4 pages of typed stuff and double-sided.
Single spaced. Yeah. And it's just like, just read one note.
Yes. 2 minutes. Music way too loud. Here's 427. Add 0.2 after Let It Go. 433. Add 0.2 after Without Question. 442.
0.2 seconds pause is what that is. Yeah.
Add 0.3 after 12 Angry Men.
I'm the one who write those notes. Yeah.
I was in a certain way, this seems even more like that you're still working at this level of detail on the show. How do you feel about these notes?
Bad. And honestly, like right now I'm training 3 people in to do them, so I don't have to. Like, and so, you know, like I feel like on stories that I feel strongly about, I'm going to do it, but like I shouldn't have to do the entire show every week. Like the other people are just as skilled and they can do it. And so I'm getting out of that game. Like within 2 months, I should be out of it.
Why do you think you're still in it?
Just bad management. It just didn't occur to me like I can get out of this part too. I just didn't get sick of it yet. Like I like it. I like doing mix notes. Like it makes the mixes better. It's satisfying. There's a before and an after. It's so much easier than writing or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a part of the process where you're just sort of like, oh, this could feel better, and it's so easy to make it feel better.
Right.
And so like, you know, I like it. It's just like I don't know. The best way I could describe like what this job is like sometimes is like I got like the greatest restaurant in the world to make me my very favorite meal, but I never am allowed to stand up from the table. You know, like I have to just keep eating that meal all the time. And so,
Yeah. One of the things, I think I've been, you know, sort of like everything I learned about running an organization also in the beginning, I learned from you. And
that is really awful.
Well,
because I was just guessing.
I know.
Can I ask it's interesting to me that you say that you learned management like here. Like, what did you learn?
Well, I learned a couple of things. Part of what the thing that I've been doing for the last 4 years is trying to figure out which of the things I learned should I keep and which of the things do I need to are not helping or were like sort of like lessons that I shouldn't have learned. The thing that I will always feel indebted to you for is like this feeling of making it feel special, like caring enough about it that other people care. And I think that's something that I learned from you that you did instinctively. And I think people have worked at This American Life. They like you are like a complicated boss, and
I'm sure.
And yet you've had people working for you for 20 years. And right. I think that is because like of your capacity to inspire. So here's the other big management question that I have about you and me and what I'm doing and what you're doing. It's these mix notes, right? So like, you know, these 4 pages of double-sided single-space mix notes. And like that, just like that attention to detail. I can't decide, and I go back and forth, like, because part of me was like, I don't want to be that much of a micromanager. I don't want to be that in the business of every single thing that we do. And partly we're doing a very different thing at Gimlet than you are. Like it's sort of like,
and you can't be. You have like so many shows.
But on the other hand, like I went too far the other way maybe, and like wasn't like I'm probably certainly I was the best editor at Gimlet for a long time, and
I'm sure.
And I was like not doing that. I wasn't engaging as much as I should, and so it's hard to know exactly where the right line of engagement is. Like, where do you bring your expertise and focus it? And I can't tell. Like these mixed notes that I'm looking at right now, I can't tell if they are the secret to your success or you're successful despite the obsessiveness of these mixed notes.
Well, the answer is obviously both. like clearly. like no, seriously. Like the answer is obviously both. You know, without that kind of attention to detail, the thing would not be good enough to be good. But obviously, like there's a real cost of doing that. But also, can I say like that's why I'm getting out of the mixed notes business? You know what I mean? Like that's why, you know, because I also don't see a need to do it.
But the mixed notes are a metaphor, you understand.
Like, I do.
Yes.
Like somebody has to do it. Like at some point, like somebody has to do it. Somebody
has to care that much.
Yes, of course. Of course. Of course. Like because it's not like what we're making is so like anything that's going to be good, has somebody at some point, somebody has to show that level of care for, or it's not going to be that good. Like somebody has to consider the whole thing and has to consider all the tiny details against the whole and the overall feeling and every detail that leads to that feeling. Like that's making things, like I wouldn't say art because I don't think what we do is art, but like, if you want something to be good, yeah, that's what you do. Like that's tough. That's the game. And that's just as true if you're making a movie or a TV show or writing a book or just anything. If you're making or you had a fancy restaurant or not a fancy restaurant, just like if you're making stuff for people to consume, at some point somebody's got to make it good. and like unless you want to be in the business of making stuff which is mediocre, and like I just don't think that there's a point to do that. I mean, obviously, like some people are into that, but like I just feel like there's enough mediocrity in the world. Our lives are short. We can give each other a gift, and let's make it good. If we're going to bother to spend the time at all, let's make it super special. Otherwise, don't do it at all. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
let's be out for fun. Let's be out for let's be out for our own pleasure. Like let's be out to make something that'll just be so pleasing to us and others, and that's how it happens. Like it's sort of you have to have like the excited feeling at the beginning, but then you also have to have this part too. And they're both when it's going well, like they're both part of the same thing.
Yeah. In the time we have left, I want to like ask you.
You have a phone ringing?
I don't. It's my stupid computer. I didn't know it was on. My phone's on.
So professional over here. Oh my goodness! Wow. Well, if those are your standards. That's fine. I guess you have your empire you're running. Whatever.
But like one of the other things that I think about with you a lot that I think is really rare is that like you have people like me and people like Julie and people like Sarah. Like you would have these people who would eventually, after, it's more than a year. It's like 2 years or 3 years really to get us up to speed and be able to do the thing, to be able to like give mixed notes with the same level of obsessiveness or almost the same level, an acceptable level of obsessiveness that it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my case, I came to you sort of like right when I got good. I was like, hey, I want to do this thing called Planet Money and I want to be out of the game. And I worked it out so that it would, get.
That was not right when you got good. You've been good for years. You've been doing like super special, wonderful, really wonderful work for years at that point.
But my point is that you were like, go, absolutely, go and do it. And then when I came and I wanted to start Gimlet, I think about this all the time. Like I told you I wanted to start Gimlet and you were nothing but supportive. And in fact, I was trying to like raise money while I still needed a job. So I was still working at This American Life and you let me keep working there. And then, but then I was trying to fundraise during my vacations. And then you were like, finally you came to me and you said, hey, you're not going to be able to do this during your vacations. It's a little bit of you're asking me about vacation time too much. Like, how much do you need? Can I just pay you and then you can go? I'll give you a bonus and then you can say goodbye. And like that should keep you going for a couple months. And like, I was like, I don't know, $10,000. And you're like, all right, fine. Like I'll write you a $10,000 check as like part of your farewell. And like, and that's just so unusual.
Really? The people they work with and wish them well. Isn't that normal human behavior in a civilized society? That like you work with people, you like them, you wish them the best, and you want them to prosper because that's so great for normal people. Isn't that the normal human thing that we do? Or are you so far down the road of your venture capital that if somebody leaves you, you have to crush them like Mr. Burns. Like,
No, I won't.
It's not like I'm running like I don't even know what. It's not you know what I mean?
But
we're not going to be the two only car makers in America, and if like every car you sell, I will not sell a car. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
I know, but still, like, weren't you like? Was it like? I just putting myself in your position now, where I would be like, oh my God, they were just finally at the point where I could really like depend on them and rely on them, and now they want to go. Was any part of you just like frustrated?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like, no, like it registered for me that it made my life harder and my show less good. Like, I understood that. I 100% understood that. But I spent a really long time working for other people. I was at NPR for 17 years, working on other people's shows, having my own thoughts about like what I wanted to do. And so like I relate to anybody who's just like, I want to, get out and sing my own song, I'm on their person's side, just like instinctively. And yes, I 100% had a feeling of like, this is not good for me. Like at some level, like Sarah and Julie doing Serial, that is not good for me personally. But in my show, This American Life. But in another way, it's much better for me because, like, I don't know, like they would feel weird just staying working for somebody else and for This American Life for too long. Like, they should make their own thing. They shouldn't be working for me. Like, and the same thing with you. Like, you shouldn't be working for me. Like, you have your own stuff you want to do. Like, what's the point? Yeah. And so, like, and so to say, like, yeah, no, it was not entirely positive as an experience for me, but 100%. Like, I was really excited for you and wanted to support you. And, anybody who feels like they're done doing what they're doing on the show and wants to make something else, that's great. Like, that seems great. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I ever, like, it was really meaningful to me that you did that. And I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it, and I'm really happy that it's worked out. Yeah. Do you take how much pride do you take in like what you have begat? I mean, it's interesting the last 10 years, like sometimes I do look around and I was just like, this is so much bigger than this is like what came out of the radio show is so much bigger and different than anything I ever imagined or thought I was doing. It's quietly very satisfying to see. But I don't think about it very much.
Right.
But occasionally it'll hit me. Oh, that's really nice that this happened, and that all these nice people whose work I admire were able to make a thing.
Yeah.
Because of this thing that I started. Like, it's hard to talk about because it does occur to me and it does mean a lot to me. And it's unthinkably like it's just unimaginable thinking about myself in the 90s, having this feeling of like, I know this kind of thing on the radio is really, really compelling. Like, I know this is a thing. Like, I had this feeling before I started making This American Life is like, there's a thing that radio can do that it's great at, which is telling stories that nobody uses it for. And to me, it always seemed crazy. It's the thing the medium is built for that no one does. It's as if like somebody had the violins existed, but nobody played violin music on them, but just tried to make them sound like something else. I was like, what would be really great is if you take the bow across the thing. It's really pretty, and fingered here. It's like, that's amazing. It's just like, why don't people do this? And then the fact that to the degree that, I mean, I have to say, like, podcasting is still like not the biggest thing in the world, but like the fact that like a lot of people like it, and that like it really is a thing that like other people do it, and like it's amazing to think that this thing that I had a feeling of like people should do that, and then like the people who actually do it who I don't know, what I mean? Like who don't work for me, like what I mean? Like I was just like, I really think could be a thing, and then that it sort of became a thing is shocking. Like that never. When does that ever happen? You know what I mean? Like, it's shocking to me. You're not going to do like a 2-hour fucking episode, are you? Because that's bullshit.
Stop editing.
Okay.
Stop micromanaging. Without Fail is hosted by me and produced by Molly Messick and Sarah Platt. It's edited by me and Devin Taylor. Jarrett Floyd and Peter Leonard mixed this episode. Music by Bobby Lord. If you left a review, rating, or shared the show with your friends, thank you. Keep doing it. And one final announcement. So if you remember in the very first episode, I said this is an experiment. We're going to do 10 episodes. We actually did 11. And maybe we're going to keep doing it if you all like it. Well, guess what? We're going to keep doing it. People seem to like it. We like doing it. And so we're ending this mini season now, but we are going to be back in February with a much more regular schedule. I'm very excited about that. So stay tuned. In the new year, we will be back with much more Without Fail. Until then, thanks so much for listening. Hey, it's Alex, and you are about to hear a special post-show called Extraordinaries on the Mic. This is part of a series we produced in partnership with Cole Haan. Cole Haan is the footwear brand that's all about inspiring extraordinary people to do extraordinary things, especially at work. As you'll hear, doing something extraordinary and getting paid to do it, that takes hard work and motivation, which is sometimes not easy to come by on your own. So recently, a few other Gimlet hosts and I got together in the studio to talk about this, the advice we've picked up on the job. I'm here with Brittany Luce, co-host of The Nod.
Hey.
And the host of Every Little Thing, Flora Lichtman.
Hi.
So guys, what's the best piece of advice you've ever heard?
I heard a piece of advice that was not actually given to me, but was given to someone else, and then it was relayed. It was a scientist, and she was saying that the best piece of advice she got, which I feel like she was talking about doing experiments. And she said, an experiment's like a bad marriage. You gotta give it one more try before you give up entirely. So this was true in science, right? Like, you can't give up if it doesn't work immediately. And I think that's true for creative work, too. You gotta keep trying, keep iterating. I've never worked on a project where, like, right out of the gate, it was perfecto. I think part of it is about stamina. And I think that's what that advice was about.
Right.
Do you have advice? Have you heard a good piece of advice?
A thing that I've said before that I first heard from my old boss, Ira Glass, at This American Life, which is not advice, but it was just like a very, very helpful way of like thinking about the world and certainly about the creative process. And I remember him saying one time, things want to be bad. And they do. They just want to be bad. And like your job is to just like try to fend off the bad things and try to keep it good. and it's like a little bit like babies, they want to hurt themselves. Mm-hmm. And so you're just trying to like, parenting is essentially just trying to not let them hurt themselves. And it feels like the same thing. So I think about that all the time.
This is a question that actually I would really like to ask Flora. What does it mean to have like career success to you? Like, what does that look like?
I feel like it's creative satisfaction. My first full-time job in media was at an NPR show called Science Friday. Mm-hmm. And I got this gig doing web stuff, and that morphed into making a video. And then I remember I was like, I don't know how to make videos at all. So I was like, I'm going to make one a week. And this was initially a terrible idea. It was this like hubris of like, I can figure it out, but like you can't figure it out in a week.
Yeah.
So I was just like slogging through and putting in a lot of late nights. And I remembered at some point in that getting to a place where I like knew how to do my job. And that felt very powerful. Like after spending years not knowing what you're doing and trying and trying and trying, and then feeling like I can do my job. At some point, the host of the show was like, oh, you should come on the show and talk about your video. And that was, the beginning of a whole other chapter of being bad at that, being on the radio for years.
This brings me back to my other piece of advice. This is the thing that I tell myself sometimes as a mantra in my dark days, is like the first draft always sucks. I've literally never found a case where that hasn't been true.
Do people think that it could be?
I think they know it intellectually, but still, whenever we do something for the first time, we expect it to be great.
Yeah.
And we're like sad that and we're like embarrassed or whatever. And like, if you just keep telling yourself the first draft always sucks and it will get better. It just helps.
It's hard to not be precious though, right? Like that's hard.
Yeah.
I think that is a
You
challenge.
just have like a mini breakdown and rebuild.
Gin and tonic.
Well, that's the tricky thing is that you have to know that the first draft always sucks, but you still have to try. Like, and so you have to be both trying for something really good and knowing that it's a futile attempt if it's the first time. That's the crazy thing about success.
Yeah.
To hear more of our conversation, produced in partnership with Cole Haan, go to extraordinariesonthemic.com. Also, please check out Brittany and Flora's shows. They are truly extraordinary. I'm talking about The Nod and Every Little Thing. You can also find Brittany and Flora in season 1 of this post show. That's right, there's a first season. Once again, at extraordinariesonthemic.com. Hey, before we go, we put together a little survey that we would love for you to fill out. It helps us make more shows that you guys want to listen to. We're asking things like, what shows do you like? How did you find us? That kind of stuff. So please, if you have a spare moment, we'd really love for you to do this. To help us out, go to withoutfail.show/survey. That's withoutfail.show/survey. Thank you so much.